Now we're here to have a bit of a chat about. I hear you've got a new show at the moment. Where exactly is it?
Just through the park, down the road a little bit, at
Yeah.
the Redcliffe Entertainment Centre,
Right.
in the Stage Door Gallery.
Okay. And has it got a title, the show?
Yes, it's called Home Turf.
Home Turf. So I was down there this morning and it was wonderful to have a look. So Home Turf, that's the Redcliffe area.
Yes, yep, for me, yeah.
And how long has it taken you to put together the work that you've got in this show?
It's spanning probably the last 3 years. So some paintings were started when I first moved back here from Maryvale, 2018. Paintings in this location in particular. And then the most recent was just finished a couple of days ago.
Right. So over a period of 3 years, so is that a problem sometimes, like stylistically? Do you find, oh gee, my style, I want to shift and move?
Yeah, I have found that the earlier works are probably a bit more impressionistic, and the works that I've produced most recently, my influences have changed a little, and it's been more focused on interiors and probably a little bit more focused on a kind of technical execution of form, and still life has really started to interest me, whereas the paintings in the beginning were more about light-filled, ambient, impressionistic sort of space.
Yeah. Because sometimes I'd sort of think, gee, 3-year period, your attitude towards things change. But I guess the one thing that doesn't change that much is this environment that you're working in.
Yeah, and I would say too that while the brush strokes themselves have changed, and maybe at this stage have moved towards a bit more of a smooth rendered look, the colour mixing has remained quite similar. So there seems to me to be a continuity between the greens of foliage that I was painting 3 years ago and the way I still paint that sort of thing now. I feel like colour-wise there's still continuity going on there.
Yeah. And I noticed in the show, there's a sort of there's definitely themes, like theme with the local environment. And then you've got within that theme, you've chosen areas, specific areas, like areas with personality, you could say, to paint the personality of that area. One of them, is the cemetery. The other is the canal.
Yeah.
So can you talk a bit about the choice that you've made there of, say, firstly the cemetery? Like a lot of people might think, oh God, the cemetery. Why is she painting a cemetery?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be really practical in my answer and say because there's a public toilet there. It's a good place to set up and be able to kind of remain set up when you nick off to go to the loo. It's generally fairly unpopulated, it's quiet, and it's beautifully landscaped. Actually, that's one of the things I really like about it, is the plantings are quite mature and established, and the garden beds are they're quite beautiful. So I don't really like just wilderness. I really like a man-made look about a space, and for me the cemetery is like somewhere between a park and a little bit of an architectural experience too, because there are forms there that they're not really functional structural things, they're for memorial's sake, and that type of non-functional architecture really interests me. So things like kiosks or rotundas, even some of the grave architecture itself, like headstones, the little fences that are around headstones. I like all that sort of non-functional structure.
In previous conversations that we've had, I'm really quite taken with almost you're searching out the interesting in what most people would look at, or maybe overlook, but probably look at as being, oh gee, that's a bit unnerving, like let's say the cemetery. So I've noticed that you enjoy the different, you enjoy the unusual, you enjoy that which isn't considered traditionally to maybe be a subject to paint very much. Apart from the close proximity to toilets, are there other elements about a cemetery that you find really intriguing?
I was really scared of cemeteries when I was a kid. Like, I didn't like the Kippering Cemetery. I had a really bad reaction to it anytime I went near it. I just found them really spooky and scary, and I had a very overactive imagination when I was little. Then as a teenager, because I lived not far from it, it was just a really nice place to go and hang out and be a bit of a goth and be a bit weird. And I guess that coming back to it a little bit older is sort of like conquering an early fear a little bit too, an early superstitious sort of way of thinking about the place. And it's very familiar to me because I've been going there for a long time. So I feel quite comfortable there. It's obviously a very psychologically rich place to paint too, and I guess I'm not trying to make it a morbid statement or anything, but I like the somberness of the subject, but the fact that the Kippering Cemetery is like a beautiful subtropical park as well. It's cheery, it's really quite beautiful and cheery, but it's really, really somber too. And painting in the cemetery, funerals are actually a bit of a hazard of the job, because you can get there, be ready to paint, and there's a funeral going on and it's just not appropriate. So you sort of have to pack up, or don't set up and wait till it's all finished and then do what you want to do. But I do firmly believe in not being disrespectful to the goings on of the cemetery and people using that as a mourning space too.
So what about these waterways? I've noticed in a number of your paintings they've been the go-to imagery. What I know you speak quite a lot about space. You love space in your work. You're painting the space. Maybe firstly, could you talk a bit to that? What do you mean by painting the space?
Trying to capture a sense of the wideness, the feeling of openness, and the clarity of like the see-throughness of the air filling the space over distance. Making it seem like there's a believable volume of air being captured between the walls of like the scenery kind of thing. An artificial chunk of depth.
So like painting the volume of nothing.
Yeah, I think so. I try to make it look like it's see-through. Like, that sounds really strange, but yeah, trying to capture the see-throughness of air.
You do, yeah, I think you nail that well, because you do really get a sense of this beautiful clear light, or it's like just what you say, like a volume of looking through and into it. You could almost expect maybe some fish to float around it.
Or some birds to fly around.
So,
or a bug.
So why waterways? Let's say because you could say that that see-through volume of spaces everywhere, down at the waterfront, down around the shops. You could say, oh look, there's that sort of see-through space everywhere. Why have you selected, say, waterways particularly, and the space that you personally see there in those views, subjects?
Because I think that when you sit and you paint somewhere, you really are elevating that view. It's sort of a way to appreciate something that isn't typically considered beautiful. But I find it very beautiful because it's these sorts of settings around Redcliffe are the site of much of my leisure time and my childhood and growing up and my playtime. And you know, it's not a perfect place to live, but it's a pretty good place, and it's pretty safe for the most part. And I just really want to capture my appreciation of the fact that we have relatively safe public spaces to be free and a little bit free, you know. So I don't really want to go to the beach and paint that. I just want to try and put my finger on a sense of gratitude for how nice something as simple as a space like this is. Like, because as a child playing here, the world's your oyster. You know, you've got so much space to run and hide and play. It's sort of goes back that far for me. That sense of sun falling on grass really triggers pleasant memories for me. So it's pretty selfish, really, to want to try and make it all over again in paint.
So are you in essence then like attempting to paint the beauty that you really see there, and the freedom that is in that beauty, and the luck of someone to be able to go out on plein air, as you're a rarity, you know that, don't you? There's not many artists.
I haven't come across too many.
You don't have to, bash your way through 50 of them in the parklands to find a subject.
I really do seem to have it all
point.
To myself.
Yeah. And you seems like you got it all to yourself.
Oh, and I like being here. You know, I like settling in for a good few hours in a space, and you just hear the ambient sounds. Really, really nice. Just birds, kids, people coming past, walking their dog. Yeah. Occasional weirdos, people that want to stop and have a chat with you and offer their feedback on how your work's going, you know.
And
it's all part of it.
You find out that their whole family, of course, paints.
Of course, they want to tell you about their niece or their auntie that used to paint.
Well, my 5-year-old child can do that. Yeah.
Ask you, how much do you make? You know, do you live doing this? You make your living?
I rob banks for a living. Now, how many works have you got there at the Stage Door Gallery?
I think there are 11 paintings.
And there's a lot of interesting characters populating that space as well. Can you tell us a bit about what else is there?
So this time round I thought that, I thought I'd fill the space with some of the things I make. So I do a lot of sewing and textile-based work. When I'm not painting, which is a fair bit of the time, I don't paint all the time, my next big love is to sew and make things. So I've been making toys and things out of patchwork, so pencil cases, bookmarks.
But they're not just your ordinary old pencil cases.
No, they're not. They've got a lot of character. And I really see patchwork as another continuation of my love of colour and composition. And I feel like the colours I use in the patchworking and the sort of arrangements that I come up with, I don't think they're so dissimilar from some of the palette going on in the paintings. They've certainly got the same kind of sense of joy, I'd say.
But I find in your paintings there's great marks, and people talk all the time about art. It's the art of mark making and how to make the most interesting marks. But you you personally have a nice shorthand or a nice encyclopedia of mark making. Is that a thrilling part of painting, like to work out how to paint that tree, you know?
It is.
In the easiest way, but the most interesting way.
Yeah, and how to say a lot, but not too much.
Yeah.
How to suggest rather than sort of didactically explain it. I like people to be able to put together the picture a bit themselves in their own head as they're looking at it. So I don't really want to descriptively paint everything. Yeah, I feel like there's more give and take, and I feel like they've probably got a bit more life in them when they're not rendered to within an inch of their life.
Yeah.
So I like that a mark can suggest a lot more than a literal depiction.
Clothing, you also enjoy making clothing, and I find that really interesting too. And the clothes that I've seen you make are very highly original. I see nobody else walking around with clothes like that. It's not like they're totally oddball clothing. I find them. They're the clothes that an artist would make, given half the chance, and a lot of time.
And the time, yeah, it's time consuming.
You enjoy it.
I thoroughly enjoy it. I love it. It's just another outlet for creativity. It really satisfies the bit of me that loves design and structure and production. I love that it requires so much skill. Like, it really is very rewarding it's slow going to build up the skill level, but it's so rewarding to be able to make things that function and work. And you've hit on something that's quite important to me. I don't want them to be so ludicrous that they're not wearable. I really want to try and strike a balance between costume and things that you might wear in a regular sort of way. Maybe not every day, but at least they're not so far flung that they couldn't be worn at like an art opening or a special occasion.
Yeah, I reckon you'd have a few jealous eyes fixed on you at an art opening if you're wearing some of your lovely clothing.
It's a great way to just continue the self-promotion too, in a way, you just continue, you're using yourself as a canvas, and you also are the gallery while you're wearing those clothes. You don't have to sort of pay anyone for the privilege or do it anyone else's way. It's all on your own back, literally.
That's right, yeah. Just as like paintings have titles, do you give titles to some of your clothing creations?
All of them. Yeah, all of them.
So, say for example the piece that you've got in the show there at the stage door. Do you know, what title is that?
So that shirt's called the Have a Nice Day shirt, and it's the shirt that's covered in emojis of all sorts of pulling all sorts of faces. It's quite cheery, but it's a little bit like, I find emojis they're like, there's this real smart ass quality about an emoji. People use them out of context. Well, no, in certain contexts they're used to be sarcastic. So a kissy face is actually, sometimes it's used to deliver an insult, or laughing at someone's expense is sort of sometimes the face that's laughing so hard tears are coming out of it. Sometimes we use that to put someone else down. So there's this sort of like nasty edge to them too. I find them very ambiguous, and to put them on the shirt like that is, it just seems like so much our moment, our point in time, and the way we communicate online is just so hard to get to the bottom. The real emotion is just conveyed through these stupid little symbols that just, it's fascinating. I'm very interested in sign exchange and the way we use signs to deliver our thoughts and identify our feelings, sort of thing.
That's really interesting, I think, too, in the show, where that particular outfit, which has like a shirt,
Mm-hmm.
and then underneath it you've got shorts and a midriff top, is it? What you
It's
call
like
it?
a halter top.
Halter top.
Yeah.
Being a man of fashion, I had no clue what the proper term was. But the thing I found intriguing about that there in the show is that you've got a painting to the left of it,
Mm-hmm.
which is an interior of that shirt, which we see in reality, and we see it in its painted form in an interior. And what's the... then the picture, there's a photo to the right,
Yeah.
where you're grappling with a timber crocodile out in the bush,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got that particular outfit on. Are you saying something about that particular outfit in that circumstance, or was it a good way to show the outfit in an unusual situation?
In the photograph?
Yeah, in the photo.
Well, okay, so that came out of just a self-guided project I set for myself last year, which was to do a photo shoot about all the clothes that I'd made in the last 18 months or so before that. And, it came out of a process of rationalising the time that I had to work with what I wanted to achieve. The graphic designer in me kicked in, and I started to group the costumes, because that's just one of about 4 costumes I photographed at that time. I started to group them into themes that could be shot in certain parts of the property that had a certain sort of story. The background would sort of heighten theatricality within the clothes, and in that particular instance I thought that shirt, that Have a Nice Day shirt with all the emojis, is very clownish, and I thought clown is the look for this outfit. So the crocodile seemed to me almost to have a circus or like an exotic kind of freak show kind of, or zoo, like just something that was a spectacle about it, like a circus act or something. I thought walking the crocodile would look really clownish, basically, would be fun. And that crocodile is something my granddad made, so it's been out there at that property for a really long time, and it was just nice to interact with it, because he was a bit of an artist himself.
Yeah, intriguing. There's something kind of almost like metaphysical about seeing a painting with that outfit in it, and the shock of seeing the actual painting. Well, why do you think that is?
Okay, well,
the actual costume there in reality that you could wear.
Because who does that? Like, who's got the time and the self-referential tongue-in-cheekness or just totally, it's just fun. It's just fun, and I can.
Yeah.
And it's like a joke brought to life sort of thing. I guess it's about humour as well. And I thought about, I've seen people display items of clothing, they'll use mannequins or dress forms, and I just thought, I don't want to repeat what's already in that painting. I want that still life of the shirt on a mannequin, on the dress form, to be its own thing. I don't want to just take that and plonk that next to it. So I thought, I'm going to flatten it out so that 3D garment that you see in the painting is now like a 2D painting on the wall. But beyond that, I really like Barbie dolls and their clothing, and I thought that the cutout body form that the clothes are on struck me as being a little bit like the flat cardboard pack that Barbie's clothes come in. So you go to the shops and you buy her a new outfit, and it's sort of like on this little cardboard form. I liked that, sort of turning it into a product, like a consumable dress-ups product.
Yes, it's funny. I don't know why I sort of find it a bit of a shock to see the reality and the painted image of the reality. And we were talking earlier about the magic. That's the magic an artist has. This magic wand to take something that's in three-dimensional form and put it on a two-dimensional surface, and to bring a new life to it on that two-dimensional surface, something that it could never maybe have in its 3D form. And I find that strange sort of dynamic, for me anyway, at work in your show. I forget its title, but it's the last, if you went chronologically, it's the last painting in the show, and it's got a hole in it, like a window, a rectangular hole, missing piece in the painted surface, and that intrigues me. That and the surprise of seeing a three-dimensional item of clothing put into a two-dimensional space on this work. Once again, there's something missing. It's a space, but the thing that isn't there is a bit of a shock. Have you had any reactions from people along those lines, or are people shocked to see, oh geez, there's a hole in this painting?
Yep.
Do they find it odd?
Yeah, everyone comments on it that sees it as though it's a mistake, or that it's damage to the painting. I had someone say, oh, I thought I did that, that they thought they'd done that damage as they were handling it, and then were relieved to find out that the hole was actually there on purpose. Yeah, that work really seems to, it doesn't sit very comfortably with people, and I didn't set out to make a work with a hole in it. It's just that I had the board had the cutout in it, and I just wasn't going to not use a perfectly good board, and the spatial intrusion interested me. And you know, you see it in some of my framing as well. It's not regular, it's actually like strange shapes. I like to see how far you can push a painting with spatial interruption before it sort of detracts too far from the work. And I think that I sort of just started painting knowing the hole was there, and just figuring that I'd deal with how to resolve it later, probably at that framing stage. So that's the benefit of doing my own framing, is that the artwork isn't really done until it's framed, and sometimes that's adding more metaphorical or metaphysical kind of layer to the artwork. So yeah, I did the painting. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with the whole. The time came to frame it, and I thought I'll just put something neutral and dark in behind it, and it looked like a black hole, hence the name, Black Hole Kippering. Painted at the back of the Kippering shops at the canals there.
Yeah, I think it works fantastically, and that's I think the third painting of yours that I've seen with these square or slightly rectangular holes in them, maybe about the size of 2 50-cent pieces, roughly. They're not gigantic.
No, like
spaces.
5 centimetres by 5 centimetres. Maybe a little more.
Yeah, and just that.
The board was salvaged from the back of a TV unit, and those holes were where someone had cut out a space for their cords to come through from the back through to the back of the unit. So I didn't put them there, they just were already there, and I like that. I really like ready-made elements in a work. I like this chance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Are there times when you're working on the painting, on the board that's got that hole in it, where does it ever concern you? How do you ever try to fit it in somehow to the painting?
No, I don't.
Let it fall where it falls?
Yeah, I don't really want to that's another way to take it all, but that's not really what it's about for me. I just like the Wabi Sabi element of letting it be there and just sort of seeing how it all goes and letting the imperfection enhance the beauty of the rest of it. It's like a beauty spot, I think, on your face.
That term Wabi Sabi, what does that mean?
Japanese term, and it's like a philosophical way of accepting or appreciating that life is not permanent. It's always changing, and it's really imperfect a lot of the time. Like flaws are a natural part of life, and a flaw actually enhances the beauty of something. So yeah, for me, you know, I'm one of those people that thinks that once people get plastic surgery, they lose their beauty. It doesn't matter how ugly you were honestly more beautiful before you got plastic surgery, because that's not beauty. Yeah, but I would take imperfect character any day.
In a conversation earlier today, you'd mentioned something about an old lady sitting spinning some wool. I'd forgotten what that's about.
Okay.
What was? I thought it was intriguing.
That was there's the big cemetery painting, a plein air painting of the cemetery. I called it the Meadow because I'd been reading I was reading Plato's Republic at the time, actually, and it was very interesting. It's old, it predates Christianity, and what I liked about it was proposing, in Plato's myth of he's proposing a afterlife, a model of what an afterlife is that isn't a Christian one, and it's not Egyptian, and it's not, you know, any of those other cultures that have afterlives. It's like the granddaddy of Western afterlife ideas, but his is cool because he basically, what I really liked about it is that the soul dies on earth, or you die here, the soul goes to the meadow, which is a waiting space, and that's what I saw the cemetery as, like a big grassy field with flowers, like a meadow, right? And you're judged for your behaviour and what you've done here on earth, and then you're sent to heaven or hell. And that's not where it ends. You don't end at that point. You get your punishment or you get your reward, then you come back and you do it all over again. There is no end point to his afterlife model. Doesn't matter how good you are, you don't win, you just go back around and around. Doesn't matter how bad you are, because you just work it off and you come back. And anyway, so at the centre of his universe is the idea of the goddess Necessity sitting with a spindle on her knee, spinning the thread of life. That's like the thread that the fates manage as well, or will cut, or, you know. So Necessity is spinning everything into being. And the other really interesting part about that myth is that you choose the life that you are born into. At that point, after the meadow, after the judgment, after the reward, you come back and you pick what you want next time. You draw a lot, and that lot is something that couldn't be any other way. So it just really fascinated me. And I just thought that structure in the centre of that painting is like a memorial pergola kind of space, and something about it to me seemed a little bit like an ancient ruin. And it also has a round spindle, like, you know, not like a spinning spindle, but it is a spindly form that's also round. So that's the similarity there.
It's intriguing, isn't it? Because like
long-winded.
it's not an easy concept to
No, it's
round
not.
out.
Most of mine aren't.
But you're like sitting in the meadow of your life, painting the lovely space in the meadows that are in front of you. It's intriguing. Like, you are doing what maybe you've done before,
Maybe.
possibly too.
Maybe. The other thing about Plato is that I was just very, very inspired by this concept that life is about finding beauty. The highest principle and value in Platonic texts is concerned with finding beauty, like transcendental moments of beauty. That's what life's all about. It's the best bit of being alive, and that just struck me as like that's exactly what I feel like I'm doing when I paint. So yeah, sitting and soaking it up, and then hopefully sharing it with other people that enjoy the paintings.
And that's a very good description of what I think it was that I felt in the painting, the surface that seemed like it's got a piece missing, which is a black space that you can look into, but it's black, was like something that's not there but is there, and it's just a little bit in the painting, but it's almost like, it's hard to explain, but almost like digging into the mystery of what it is to paint, what it is to create, what it is to have that magic wand at your beck and call. You can use it or you cannot use it, and you're certainly using it.
I feel like it's something that, because I am in a very blessed position to be able to do it, give it as much time as I do and have the support of people around me, well, I feel like I'm going to do it because it's such a rare opportunity. I feel like I'd be wasting my life if I didn't use it to do this pursuit of living and breathing whatever beauty I can find around me in a really basic everyday way. Like, you don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to leave where you are to find beauty. It's not over there, it's in really commonplace places. But I think it's sort of like maybe a bit of a headspace that helps you see that or something, you know. I think it's easier to feel like you can buy a ticket and go there rather than like develop that sense within yourself to just see it wherever you are.
Yeah.
And it's really like, it's not to be like I see something that other people don't see, it's just that it's a coping mechanism for me to just accept my lot in life and where I'm at, you know. Like, I just try to find the best in the basic things around me, so I'm not sort of yearning for stuff that is beyond me.
How do you ever have paintings that they're just not working out, and how, if you do have paintings that just don't seem to be going anywhere, or they're not quite going maybe in the direction I'd like them to, do you try and make them go in the way, or do you leave it all a bit open? How do you deal with that?
You know, okay, this thing happens for me where I will try to hold on and save a painting. I really will. Like, I do, because I've seen it happen. I've seen it turn around, and it's okay. It has to be pretty bad before I would give up on it. When it's bad, I just say to myself, well, I don't like it anyway. I don't like it now, so I better get a bit dramatic with what I'm going to do next. And I try to cut my losses a bit and use it to... So I just say to myself, I don't like it. Anything I do now is fair game. It's either going to make it better, or I already don't like it, so it doesn't matter. It's going to make it worse, who cares? So I may as well try something that I haven't done before. I try to do something that, you know, something that, what would happen if I did this? Something that will surprise me, hopefully.
Did you consciously design this exhibition like a few years ago? Like, do you think, it'd be nice to sort of maybe put these together and do a show?
No, I do tend to always think about, of course, I love to find a way to show what I've done to people. Like, I feel like it's a really nice way to conclude whatever you've been working on, is to share it with an audience. I feel like my work gets better the more of it you see. So when I have the opportunity to have wall space all to myself, and sort of amplify my message through multiple paintings, I'll take that opportunity every time. So I'm always sort of in the back of my mind thinking about how I can package stuff up. So yes, there is a part of me that is thinking about not too heavy-handedly trying to make the missing piece for a show, but is thinking about how does this fit with what I've already got going on. Yeah. And you know, I like to think that my parameters are fairly loose. Yeah, it doesn't have to be too closely connected. Just so that I can sort of rationalize it and write a little bit of like an artist statement that would glue it all together, sort of thing. Yeah. Sometimes I've got to use a bit of art writing gymnastics to do that, but I like that challenge too.
The human figure. Do you have the human being entering your stage from time to time?
I think, honestly, I prefer paintings that don't have people in them. I like them because I feel like they're yours. There's no one else there, it's your space. I feel like people in images date it, and they're too specific, and they start to, it's like, if you listen to music, you wouldn't want to necessarily put words in like Beethoven, would you? You know, like, I know some of his operas, but it's a musical experience, it's an instrumental experience, and I feel like my paintings are like instrumental paintings. Once you put that human figure in there, you're telling a feel good or a woe is me, or a, you know, like, you're really starting to shape people's response way too specifically for me. So I like them to be instrumental. Yeah. I like to paint people and I like to draw people. I certainly do like figurative stuff, but I just love landscapes and scenery that's all your own without anyone occupying it. Yeah.
Is there a last question? I think is there a work down there in my home turf exhibition that is something about it that is very special? Like, I guess all of them are special, but something that particularly intrigued you when you were working on it, or something about how its process of coming to be. Is there anything like that?
Yeah, there is. I'd probably have to say that Washout at Humpybong Park is one of those paintings that my hands were taken off the reins of control, and that was finished for me by circumstances, and for that reason I really like it. So that painting was actually painted here in this park, just a little bit further down there, and it was the result of multiple visits over about 2 months, and on my final painting session there was just a torrential rainstorm and I was stuck in it, and because I was here on my bike I had nowhere to shelter my paintings or protect them, and as I was leaving the park, the paintings were in the front basket of my bike, and I'd put one at the front and they were stacked behind it. That one at the front just totally got rained on, and the paint wasn't dry, the oil paint wasn't dry, and the rain really affected the surface. It made it very fuzzy, and it concluded a project for me. I just thought, that's it, that's done, and that's been almost like a collaboration with the place, you know, and with nature. And so I framed it up as is. I put the pieces of the triptych together, and I left that panel in a fuzzy state, and I just call it a weather happening. I feel like it's a little bit like that's the performance and live quality of painting on plein air, the unexpected, and it seemed to me like a happening. Yeah.
Great. I really enjoyed talking.
Good questions.
Chatting.
Thank you, Jim.
I think it's a lovely show, My Home Turf. It's a lovely title. and I think that your unique approach to working and your dogged, never giving up method of taking no prisoners. It's wonderful. It's a strength, you know. And I think every artist, if they're going to get somewhere, they've got to. If they haven't got that, you know, it's a big lack. It's a big something that's just not that's missing, and it needs to be there. And you've got it in spades. And,
Thank you.